Yes, I can hear you now. Okay. Okay, great.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you hear me? You hear the music? Okay, perfect. Good morning, Hundar, Running Bear. How are we this morning? Celtic Wolf. How are we, guys? Aiko G, hello, good morning. I just want to say thank you guys for joining us. Who forgot to change their clocks? Joy, good morning. Good morning, Mischief Maker. Good morning, Serial Killer. Hi, Cora. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good screaming. I hope you guys had a great weekend. And I do want to say thank you for digging yourselves up early this morning and joining me for Coffee Chat of Horrors. I am very excited to introduce our guest today. Kenzie Jennings is a horror author. Some of the books that you may know is Slash Her, Baker's Dozen, and many, many more scary books. If you want to ask Kenzie any questions when we switch to our other scene, please feel free to ask questions, writing if you're a writer yourself. Also, sometimes tagging me when you actually ask the question. I can copy it down and paste it in my notepad. Zach, good morning. Ghetto Wolverine, good morning. I only have my phone, so daylight saving time is no problem. Oh, that's awesome. You don't read books? I do. I like reading. But let's get into the show, guys. Let's get into the show. Hi, creepies. I am ReAnimateHer. I know, it just sounds like a porno all of a sudden. Some zombies start stripping their clothes off and shit.
Cat dead. Details later.
We got our ball cleavage back, ladies.
They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you, Barbara.
Do you want a game and get your jollies off as well? This is Coffee Chat of Horrors. Good morning. That ball cleavage part always gets me every friggin' time I listen to it. Good morning, guys. This is Kenzie Jennings. Kenzie Jennings, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you guys hear Kenzie okay? Make sure our volume is up and locked in.
Just to make sure, I am here.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. She's a bit low. I can bump her up. A bit low. That's better. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys for letting me know if she was low or not. Skype can be a little weird because that's what I use. But yes, Kenzie, you're an author. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am an ex-military brat or military brat. Grew up all over the place overseas. I am currently living in Florida. I'm an English professor at a local college. And yes, I write horror. That's sort of my side gig. It only has been for the past couple of years, though. This is a new venture for me. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. It's been interesting. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Oh, wow. So you're a teacher.
Yep. English professor. Yep.
English professor. Oh, that's great. I suck at English.
Well, you want to know the truth? I actually, I tell my students this all the time, that it's, English, even English professors make mistakes and even writers make mistakes. I am terrible at like every once in a while when I have to teach a grammar skill, I'm okay at explaining it, but I'm not okay about figuring out what the term is for it. Like, I don't know, like dangling modifier, past participle, those terms, not for me. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Was being a professor what you wanted to do when you were a child, or was there something different?
No. I actually, when I wanted to do when I was a kid, all the way up until probably my mid-20s, when I discovered the reality of it, I wanted to be a screenwriter.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went to school for a little bit for it, and I had a screenwriting mentor. And when I was in my 20s, and I was married then during that time, I had a couple of scripts optioned before, but nothing came of them. So nothing was greenlit, nothing, none of the studios seemed interested in them. So I kind of gave up and just I'd been teaching English in Japan for a few years. So I thought might as well go to school and because I enjoyed it.
Right.
And get a graduate degree in it. So that's what I did. And that's how I wound up in my position right now. So
exciting. So you lived in Japan. How long did you live in Japan for?
I lived in Japan from 3 years, 96 to 99. And that was like the last leg of my marriage. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. Whenever people ask me if I like Japan, I always say, well, I'm kind of half and half on it. I love the weird experience of it, like walking to a place where you knew everything was completely different than what you were used to. But I also had a really bad experience because that was the end of my marriage. So when people ask me, do you want to go back? I'm like, maybe. It will certainly be a different experience, that's for sure. But yeah, it was an interesting time. I think the most interesting part about it was my ex-husband, who was active duty at the time in the Air Force. He was a journalist for the Pacific Stars and Stripes. And that meant that we didn't actually live on the military base. We actually lived in Tokyo. We lived downtown Tokyo. Oh, wow. So that in itself was a lot of fun. I am a city girl at heart. I don't know how I wound up in the middle of, I'm in between two cities now, but I don't actually live in a city now. But yeah, it's amazing how much you learn about what you're capable of when you're thrown in a foreign country. You don't know the language and you can't read it either. So
right? Yeah, that would have to be. It was
weird. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie, the remake of The Grudge, Ju-on.
Yes, I have.
The American version of The Grudge I actually like it a lot because the little moments in it where one of the expat people, I think it's the character who's played by Clea Duvall, I think that's her name. Mm-hmm. She's been brought there by her husband's family to take care of his mother, who's in this house, and she's and needs a social worker to come and look after her. And Clea Duvall plays the wife of this guy whose mother-in-law is being taken care of. But there's a scene where she's in a convenience store and she's trying to read all of the labels on all the food, and she can't, and because obviously she can't read Japanese.
Right.
So she's opening up containers and smelling them. And that was like weirdly one of my favorite scenes in the movie because I completely empathized with her. Going to Japan and being thrown into a city like that and not being able to read anything and opening things and not knowing what they are, like what you're eating, what the surprise is going to be this time.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I haven't really been anywhere outside of North America, so.
It's funny. I told a friend of mine, I said, I don't know America very well. And it's like, I've been to a number of states, but I haven't really like explored the United States. And that's sort of a bucket list goal is to go on a giant road trip and visit all the states somehow.
Yeah, no, that would be fun traveling around. My XSplit, my XSplit keeps making a noise because it's stuck on the thing on something, and I can't seem to undo it. So I do apologize about that thing, guys. So I'm just gonna have to go like that. I don't know what's going on with my XSplit. It's been very weird. It's what I use to broadcast my content and capture you, and it's acting really weird right now. So let's fingers crossed it's okay. My gremlins are at full force.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever been interviewed on Skype, so this is unusual.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. It's either normally Zoom. I think I was on Microsoft Teams once. There was one that was actually directly on YouTube. I don't know how they did that. It was really weird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't think I've ever I've been interviewed like speaking on Skype, like just the speaking and no video, but I've never actually done the whole like camera and whatnot on Skype. So this is new.
Oh, yeah, no, I use Skype because sometimes I go over the hour limit with Zoom, and they
Uh-huh.
want you to pay for, I think it's like
Yeah.
$20 a month or something like
Yeah.
that. And I'm
They
just
want
like,
you to- yeah, they want you to subscribe for sure.
yeah, and I understand it's their service, but I don't use it. I could pay that $20 or whatever it is a month if I've used it on a regular basis. But
Right.
we have some Sundays where we don't have anybody come on the show, and it's a day off for me.
Right. Right.
But definitely, Ghost in the Machine. Yeah, Blue Gremlins. My Gremlins are out.
For sure.
I always say it's my stuff is possessed because I'll have the strangest issues. It's just yeah. Monkey Van Meowerton has a question for you. Actually, a few part question. As a writer, how do you go about deciding on names for your characters?
Mhm.
Also, do you search the meaning of the names or write down names that you find interesting?
Yes, 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 and yes. I do that, especially with the main characters, the protagonist and the antagonist, and um, I also not don't just look like what the names mean and whatever origin they're from, whatever background they have,
Hmm.
but I also hear it as well. I have to make sure that it sounds good in the ear too.
Right.
I learned this trick when I was learning how to be a screenwriter to not deliberately try not to have characters where the names sound too alike, because then obviously if you're watching the movie you'll get confused, okay, so and so, but that sounds exactly the same. And I've used it in my own, like, writing books and short stories too. That's what I do. But yeah, I definitely look at backgrounds, and if there are significant, like, meanings behind them, or they were weirdly used in the time frame. For instance, my splatter western Red Station, the protagonist name, it's a woman and her name is Clyde. I got a lot of flack for that too. A lot of people said that's a weird name.
Oh,
And I only knew that in that time period of the late 1800s that there were women who were named Clyde, and it was more significant to me because my grandfather was named Clyde as well. So I said, "Screw it, I'm going to use it. It's different, and people will remember it." And sure as hell they do. They remember it. So it has to be memorable, and if I have time, I will definitely research the background of the name for
right.
sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, strange that you would have some flack about the name.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, once in a while you get people who are like, they're not used to being, like, thrown, or they're not used, if it's not the norm, they don't want to hear it. So I don't know. But the thing is, I always said, you remember that name though. If
Yes.
you immediately said it, you know that name, and that's going to stick with you. If I named her Melissa, you would not remember that.
No, that's just a regular generic name, and it has no memorable status about it, right?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Mm.
But Clyde, you will remember. You will remember the woman named Clyde. You will definitely do
Oh,
that.
for sure. Definitely. Right? Who wants to become normal? Right, Blue? Nobody wants to be normal. Celtic Wolf has a question for you. As a military brat, what is your favorite country to live in outside of the US or Japan?
Oh, okay. Well, I've been to a lot of countries, but I think I've only lived in five. Let me think. So lived in Japan, America, obviously, Belgium, England, and Germany.
Oh, nice.
And of the five, England was my favorite. Not for the weather. The weather sucks, but because it was another kind of mishmash of an experience. I went to high school there. I went to a base high school there. And we had a very different experience as high schoolers. The field trips that we would go on were really, like, glamorous. Like, we'd actually go see the Royal Shakespeare Company performing in London. I mean, so we'd go to Stratford upon Avon to see where Shakespeare was, where
Oh,
he
wow.
came from. So yeah, culturally, it was a very different experience, and one that I will never forget. But I think I also liked England the most as well because that's the longest time my parents were stationed there, and it was where I met my ex-husband too. So out of all the places when I was growing up, the longest place I ever stayed at, England was the place we stayed there for. I think my parents stayed there for like 9 years, like almost a decade, which is highly unusual for military
Oh,
families.
wow.
Really weird. It's usually, if you know anything, it's like usually like 3 to 4 years. Well, actually 2 to 4 years, and then they get transferred somewhere else. But my dad kept. He had started as I think it was the head of general surgery in the hospital there on the base, and then he gradually became like the commander of the hospital and the commander of the medical group. So they kept him on. So
Right.
they were allowed to actually live there for a while. But yeah, and those are like the only people I really connect with, from my past in terms of my childhood, are the ones from high school. So yeah, and we always lament about missing like British stuff. Like, like everything from the simplest things like British candy to like
Yeah.
experiences like going to see the Royal Shakespeare Company, things like that. So yeah, definitely England. I also lived in London. I went to film school in London for a year, my sophomore and junior year, my junior year of college. And that was a lot of fun. Again, I love living in the city because you're never bored. There's always something.
There's always something to do in a city.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived in a little apartment. The first term I lived in an apartment, and it was 2 blocks away from Baker Street, where Sherlock Holmes.
That's cool.
221B in Baker Street. Yeah. Outside of it's a museum, and outside the museum, there's always a guy standing out there dressed as like the traditional Sherlock Holmes with the cap and the pipe and whatnot, and he's handing out his business card to everybody. I still have it, I still have it in my mementos from England, but I thought it was great. But yeah, definitely England for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. Blue is like, I only lived in 5. Military brats are so lucky. I would gather there is some luck, some cons and pros being a military brat, right? Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, yeah, people lament the advent of social media. They say, oh, we're all getting addicted to social media, etc. But social media connects military brats, because that the one downside to being a military brat is that you could never keep your friends for very long. You'd have to get used to leaving. So by the time you made good friends, you had to go. And social media has taken that away, has allowed us to reconnect. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. I remember when I first started connecting back with people I knew from high school, and their experiences were in terms of they liked the actual high school, and I don't like high school. I didn't like high school at all. So they were all talking about the good old days. It was like their glory days or something. Right. And I went, "Oh, come on, guys, let's talk about the cultural experience instead. That's so much better." But anyway, yeah. But yeah, the downside is that, yeah, you always, eventually you leave your friends. So
yeah,
we got very used to that. Not only that, when you're a little kid, you don't really care about the cultural aspects of places where you are. You want to see where the candy is, where the toys are, and then when you're in high school, you're disaffected by everything. So
yeah, that's very true.
That's the only other thing that was really negative about the experience, was that I was probably too young to appreciate everything there. As an adult living, when I was in Japan, I could appreciate a lot more because I was an adult. I was in my 20s. But yeah, as a teenager and a little kid, it's like, don't really care.
That's awesome. It had an exciting young life and growing up into an adult. That's pretty cool. It's a lot of, ideas for horror stories too.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because one of my goals, because I write extreme horror. I'm a splatterpunk extreme person, so I write a lot of gory stuff. And
we love that.
I really want to write something kind of mainstream like and write like a haunted house story or something. I want to write a ghost story. I really do.
Ooh.
But I can't think of any good. Every time I start to think of a ghost story, it turns into a splatterpunk thing, and I can't. So one day I'm just going to buckle down and say, I want to take something from one of the countries where I lived and research a ghost story and then incorporate it into a modern story. That's what I really want to do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what though. I haven't, it's, by the time I start focusing on a project like that, somebody asks me if I can do something. Like once you start like publishing novels and whatnot, you get invited to a lot of things. You get invited to submit to anthologies, for instance. So right now, and you'll see most of my work that's published. So I don't have a really big series of books or anything because of how new I am with this. But the majority of the books that you see on Amazon with my name are anthologies. So I have a story. Yeah, because I was invited to do it. So yeah, I get right now. You also get people reach out to you to ask to write a book with you. So I'm writing a book with this guy I know, and it's kind of distracted me and kept me away from doing this haunted house thing I want to do. So one day I will, I swear.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. And you've lived in Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom, and they all have cultural legends and myths. And yeah,
for sure.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of nifty. So, and again, I really would like to write something more mainstream than I have. I didn't know if anybody had told me that I'd be writing gory stuff. I would not in the past, like a long time ago, like back when I was a teenager, and said you're going to be writing really gory horror. I would not have believed it.
Some of us, like myself, we love gore. And I was looking at your books, and I did get slash her. I just got that one, and yeah. I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, that's an anthology that was put out by Kandisha Press. Mm-hmm. And the ladies who are putting it out, they're so wonderful. Well, Janine Pipe is a good friend of mine. And it's one of those things where one day I want to actually physically meet her because we have so much in common. And there was a group of us who were invited to submit to it. And it was an idea that they'd had for a while to do this collection of slasher stories written by women. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is awesome. My story is in it is a little like, it's not anything like I had a hard time trying to figure out like how to do a slasher without doing a conventional slasher. Cause I'm not a fan of conventional slashers. I don't like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And if any of you guys do, I have no worries. It's okay. I don't mean to offend anyone.
No, not at all.
I like slashers that aren't really slashers. Like they have another subgenre blended into them. My favorite non-traditional slasher is the French film Inside.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it's because it's so female centric that this is about motherhood and madness and the ruthlessness of the woman who basically wants to carve a baby out of another woman. It's frightening. So I wanted to write like a story that was unconventionally a slasher. Right. So I was inspired to write the story about a group of women who've known each other for a long time, who are killers. They're psychopaths, and now they have a business that they murder people they kill people. They're contract killers who kill people who are terrible vacationers, the kind of vacationers who cause horrible problems at resorts. So it's a weird story, but I really wanted to write something that wasn't conventional. And I also wanted to write something that two of my closest friends in the world could enjoy too.
Nice.
Because we went on beach vacations where we had the worst time with other people. Just on, when you're on the beach and there's always a group of people who bring their loud music. Mm-hmm. like really loud, and they leave their shit there. They leave all of their stuff just on the beach overnight, like
Oh,
canopies and stuff, like
yeah.
they deserved a spot. So I said, I'm going to write a story about people who kill them. So that's what I did. And I don't
Oh,
know if
that's awesome.
I really like the story, but I'm like, I kind of like it because I secretly wanted to do that. It's terrible.
No, that's awesome. That is that is definitely awesome. And Joy Toy's like, yes, murder them bastards.
I tell you, and it's like I bet it's even worse now. I don't know if anybody's seen like I've become a kind of a TikTok addict. This is terrible to admit, but my favorite ones are all the people on the planes who refuse to wear masks. And watching them, their defiance and getting kicked off, and everybody cheering when they get kicked off.
Oh, some of them are funny.
Yeah, and I said I've been stuck with this sort of like the past several short stories I've written for anthologies have been about vacations. So it can't be a coincidence. Anyway.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I'll have to agree with you, Celtic. That is the great thing about horror. It has something for everyone. Gore does have its place, and other people don't like gore. They like a more of a psychological type of horror. Some like the romantic horror, vampires. So yeah, horror is great for that because it's a whole bunch of stuff in one. And if that's not for you, there's always something else. Inside is a great movie, great French movie. It was remade in North America and it sucked. Yeah, they totally destroyed that film.
They did that with Martyrs too.
They did with Martyrs. They destroyed it.
Like, why are you even bothering? The whole sort of what do they call it? The French extremes, the Renaissance, that all of those movies came out, and I'm like, I was worried that America was going to grab them and cash cow them and turn them into
really
bland movies. And the whole purpose was that they're supposed to be viscerally shocking to people.
Yes.
And to take that out, I just
yes, and it's sad because the U.S., I should say North America as a whole, loves to remake horror from international places and destroy it. See, Japanese horror is one of my favorites, and Ju-on is, when you remake it into an American version, it loses that creepy eeriness that the Japanese put into their stories. Like,
although I have to latch on to that because again, the remake of Ju-on, The Grudge, like I said, it still. They kept the same director and they kept the locale the same, and they put expats in it, which I thought was different. But it's like the only and I have to defend The Ring. I thought The Ring was actually really good.
Oh, you like the North American version of Ringu?
Yeah, I do. I really do, and only because it wasn't like some kind of overblown Hollywood feel of that movie. It felt, the color saturation was kind of gray and blue. The atmosphere was kind of, I was set in Seattle or the northwestern United States, and the pacing was the same as the original. So it was this kind of easygoing pace. We weren't going to get to the scares just yet, but you have this creeping dread that follows, you and Naomi Watts, or the person investigating this. So I actually, those are like the two like remakes that I will stand by personally.
Right.
But overall, no.
Yeah, like, no, I agree.
Movies, don't touch those. Don't. If you're going to turn it into a basic R-rated film, you're not doing the film justice. Yeah,
I will agree with was it Ring? Yeah, The Ring. They did keep the eeriness. They tried to. I definitely will give them that. They definitely tried to. We do have a question from Blue. Blue Suede wants to know, did the cultural influence of having lived in other countries contribute to your writings?
Well, I maybe subconsciously, I don't know. I guess you would have to, you'd have to read something, read like one of the books that I wrote, and then kind of maybe the pattern of the story, perhaps. But like I said, on a subconscious level, perhaps. Like I said, though, I've not written anything that was directly related to anything that I know of from living overseas.
Right.
But yeah, like, and my goal is to definitely write a haunted house story. So I hope that I can bring something from Germany or England or Belgium into it. So,
Yeah.
even if maybe like I said, maybe on a subconscious level, like plot wise and story wise, it might feel a little bit. I know a friend of mine told me that when my debut Reception came out, which is about, if you like books about cannibalism.
I do.
Cannibals at a wedding. It's cannibals at a wedding reception. It's how I pitched it, just really loosely. The basic like structure of it feels like something foreign. I like that kind of what they call slow burn of it. But I get a lot of my stuff is like the first half of it is character building and giving you that sense of dread that's going on, and then halfway through just exploding. So the Reception follows that structure. So the story is about this woman. Her name is Ansley Boone. She's coming out of rehab for the weekend to be in her sister's wedding, and the wedding is set in the middle of Texas Hill Country, at this rundown resort that's run by friends of the groom's family. And the whole thing is like the family doesn't want Ansley to be there because she's kind of the black sheep of the family. Mm-hmm. She's had horrible problems, and but everybody seems to agree. Everybody on Ansley's side, the bride's side, except for the bride herself, her sister, seem to think that there's something wrong with the groom's family, and they're not sure what it is. But and Ansley senses that something's coming. And but yeah, so the pacing is getting to know this family, the Boone family, at this place and nobody wants Ansley there. And then exactly at the halfway mark, I did this deliberately. Right at the reception, everything goes completely bananas. So I think that pacing is probably consciously maybe kind of foreign in a way, but I don't know. You'd have to judge for yourself. The guy I was talking to said, your book reminds me of an A24 film.
Ooh, and what is the title of that book again?
Reception.
Yeah, I think I've seen that in that list.
It was nominated for a Splatterpunk Award, and Red Station was too, the splatter western. But that's my Reception is my pride and joy, because that I was not connected to anything. I told the backstory to that is my little sister's wedding was at this freaky ass resort in the middle of Texas Hill Country, and everybody was like kind of put off by the place. And I told my little sister, I was kind of joking with her, but kind of half serious. I said, I'm going to write a horror book about this place. It's like, and I when I got home, I started writing notes, and then I'm like, well, what can I do with the story? Let's have it set at a wedding. I know about that, so let me put that.
That's awesome.
And it just kind of fell, and it fell together properly. And coincidentally, at that time, after my mother died, I went into kind of this funk and kind of spiraled, and I couldn't sleep, and I was put on benzodiazepines. They put me on Ativan. And if anybody has ever been put on anti-anxiety medication like that, it's the most horrible experience trying to get off of it. Mm-hmm. So I had benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome, and I still have lingering effects of it even years later.
Yeah.
And so that is in the book as well. I mean, that's what Ansley, the protagonist, has. So Reception is the one I recommend people read because it is personal to me.
Right.
So it became this kind of like, it was surface level kind of fun. I'm going to write a story about this place because it sucks, to something much bigger than that. So if you ever want to really get into something that I've written, please read that one.
I wrote that one down because cannibals, I love cannibals. I have lots of books on cannibals.
The research that went into it, I just try to put, I mean, obviously it has a lot of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence to it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah,
one of my
'cause that's
favorites.
Texas, and you know, the locals, you know, eat people. So I'm like, all right, let's do that. Um, and I love the idea of having human monsters. I've always loved that. So, you know, it's funny. I was going to point out something that you did actually. It was you did a top indie horror film,
Yes.
and I noticed that you had mentioned that you were into that sort of thing, the cannibals and the flash like that. So I was like, this is right on.
Yes, I love my cannibals. I love splatter films. I like gore. I like everything in horror, to be honest. Um, Running Bear has a great question. He wants to know, how did you get into writing books, and who came up with the art for the covers?
That's a great question. Those are good. Wait, what was the first part? One more time.
Yep, no worries. How did you get into writing these books?
Okay, so I told you about the backstory to that. Afterwards, I only have 2 books out written just by myself. Red Station was the splatter western. That I was invited, one of those invitation things. My publisher, the publisher who published Reception, Death's Head Press, one of the guys who were in charge of that, Patrick C. Harrison III, he had this idea to write. He invited a bunch of authors to write novels, novellas, around a subgenre that he created called the splatter western. Not weird western, splatter western. So it was like taking really gory horror and throwing it into a western.
Yeah.
And they're all standalones. But yeah, I was invited to do that. So that's how I started writing that and researching that. In general, I started writing because it was therapeutic. So, and that's how I got into writing that. I was going to say, oh yeah, okay. So the artist for those book covers, because they're freaking amazing. The one who did Reception is a friend of mine. Her name is Lynn Hanson. She is a brilliant cover artist. She does work for all kinds of horror related, you know, covers and magazine covers and whatnot. She has a great process. What she does is when the publisher hires her on to do a project, she works with both the publisher and the author, and she has this thing where she asks the author to find 3 book covers that the author really liked, just in general. And so I picked out 3 covers. I wanted the cover to be like something out of a magazine, like. Yeah, it really does. It's supposed to look like a magazine cover. And I showed her like several, and one of them was one of her old covers that she did that looked like some kind of horror magazine cover. And she just went from there. And she gave, you know, she had multiple drafts of it. She showed, you know, what she was going to put in, what she was going to put out. And she asked me for my input. It was really cool. So yeah, the cover of Reception eventually became, you know, looks just like the cover of a wedding magazine, you know.
Yeah.
A creepy one, but like, and even has little subtitles on it, which I thought were so much fun. And titles for like articles in them. The weird part though was I really love it. And there were a couple people who first read the book who thought that it was not an actual magazine, but that it was in several parts, because it said, you know, issue 1 on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Issue 2. And I'm like, oh, no. And they're like, oh, it's supposed to be like a magazine. I said, yeah. Red Station is another, I mean, Justin Kuntz, T. Kuntz is the artist for the Death's Head Press Splatter Western collection. He does his own painting artwork. And he has created, if you look at all of them together, they kind of match because they're the old school, those retro paperbacks that you'd see at a used store. where they had actual artwork on the cover, and I flippin' love it. It's so good. And he has a similar process to Lynn. He what he does is he pitches the idea and kind of shows it, and then he has the author like take part in it, like, okay, maybe this character can be on the cover over here or whatever. But yeah, he's gotten a lot of work because of the splatter westerns. He's got a lot of commissions because people are eating his work up. They love it.
That's great.
So that's a little background into the covers. And going into that, anybody who says that covers are not important is really stupid.
Yeah, they didn't grow up in the era of video stores, because back in the day when I was going into rent a VHS, the cover art really played a huge role in my picking, especially if it was a movie I never seen before in the horror genre and it had a kick-ass cover. I'm like, oh, shit, yeah, I'm gonna go and watch this.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's funny you say that, because I think now I wish that covers, well, we don't have video anymore,
No.
like we used to, obviously. But like the movie posters now are so basic and boring.
They are. I completely agree with you. I would love the cover art you go into the VHS and you're just looking around to rent a movie or even just your DVD cover. But I just remember the VHS having so much more artwork on them and better than a DVD, and picking from that way. Movie posters nowadays, they kind of suck. They're very basic, very bland. There seems to be no creativity in them, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, especially in horror, remember when Scream came out and the poster was like the main cast and they're like in a triangle, it's kind of this converging, and it's just their heads, and it has like ghost face at the top, and then everybody started copying it.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at I liked The Faculty. I thought The Faculty was such a fun movie.
Yes, Faculty is a great movie.
But don't look at their poster because it's exactly like Scream.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So yeah, I wish that they'd go back to like the VHS covers and with the actual artwork and make it much more enticing, especially trying to grab new horror fans. You're not going to with a Scream style poster. It looks so basic. So.
I agree. I have a lot of movie posters. I have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, an original from the movie theater. I have an Evil Dead. I have tons of them. And yeah, I collected them because of the artwork that's on their posters, not just because of the movie was amazing, but the artwork that's on them. Some of them I have, they're not even my favorite movie, but I still collect them because of the artwork of the cover.
Yeah. And it's the same with books.
Yeah, yes, I would agree.
As soon as I got into, the whole novel publishing, book publishing thing, I've started taking closer notice of covers, especially one of my, this is terrible to say. I don't know the name of the website, but it's a website dedicated to like the worst covers on books. Like covers I can't remember what it's called, but they send one like almost every day. So he gets one and he posts it. But it's amazing, like the people who are self-publishing, who are publishing, turn themselves into a business and are publishing.
Right.
The bulk of their money that they should invest in is the cover for sure, and the editing.
Yeah.
You can blatantly see who doesn't give a crap about that. So it's just, if the cover is hideous, although I don't know, like a website like that, I wouldn't be surprised if people actually buy the book just so that they could have the bad cover to make fun of. but anyway, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Artwork on anything, and Deadwalk was saying albums as well. The artwork on albums. Yeah. It's a shame that it's lost its touch. Good morning, Dahi. Good morning. For those of you that are just joining us this morning, I am speaking with Kenzie Jennings, and we were just discussing cover work of her books and just in general cover artwork. And yes, Fusa is here. I know, Fu. Come on. You're in my way. I can't see my chat. Um, what sparked your love for horror?
Oh, yeah, this is the classic question. Like
Yeah.
I've been on kind of like I don't know if it's an existential journey into like discovering what things I'm at the midpoint. I'm in the midpoint of my life, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like a midlife crisis, and one of them is why the hell am I writing horror? Because I never thought I'd be writing horror either.
Right.
I always thought personally I'd be writing action movies, but yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, so I've been reading it forever. I mean, like horror, I'm sure you guys too. Everybody who's a horror fan has either been watching and or reading it since they were kids.
Yep.
A lot of us. And I kind of latched on to being interested in it because I grew up, like I'm sure a lot of people, you grew up with boomer parents.
Yes.
I had a dad who's just, I love him to pieces, but he was the meanest bastard on the planet. You know, just was always in a foul mood, and every curse word I've ever learned is all from him. And that's basically why I have a potty mouth. But he was one of those people because he had been a surgeon, he'd been in the military. I always thought he was never afraid of anything, you know, just like he was angry all the time. So he's scary himself. Boy, and this was back in the very early 80s, like 81, when I was young. And I remember he had gone to see a movie one night, and he came home and he had nightmares. My mom was like, he was traumatized by a movie. Oh. And so I learned what the movie was. The movie is An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yes.
And he, because he's a surgeon and because, you know, the whole body horror thing, the transformation scene is what gave him nightmares, because he said it was the most realistic thing he'd seen on the screen, was something supernatural like that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know more about what was scaring the scary man.
Yeah.
So I mean, it started with like little like collections of short stories for kids, like, you know, what was it called?
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah. And there was also like an anthology of and see, because I was a child of the 80s, nothing was really censored for us.
Yeah.
Our library in elementary school had Stephen King books, you know.
Yep.
So of course I read them, and I mean, I was an avid reader when I was very young. But the first horror book, you know, anything horror related that I read was actually an anthology that had very adult horror stories that had childlike drawings in them. And the one story that stuck with me that finally kind of clinched my interest in horror was a Robert Bloch story called, I think it was called Sweets to the Sweet. Ooh. And it was about an evil little witch girl. and it is absolutely terrifying. It is just one image, and it's just, I don't want to spoil it. You need to go find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of the turning point for me, and when I became interested in it. Now, the weird part as well is that probably due to my father freaking out, he wouldn't let us watch any straightforward horror movies at all. So any little horror films that I saw were like contraband. So right. I mean, I would watch something at a friend's house or something. But the weird part with my dad was that he wouldn't let us watch horror films, but he'd let us watch science fiction films, and that included science fiction horror.
Ah.
The first horror movie I ever saw in its entirety all the way through was Alien.
Oh, I love Alien.
And it still holds, despite the fashion and the hairstyle and whatnot, everything else still holds up, you know, and it's and the pacing of it. It is the most terrifying monster haunted house kind of story in space I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, and that also helped. That also got me interested in horror. So, but yeah, that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, the American Werewolf in London is amazing. It's one of my most favorite werewolf films. The fact that they did a full body for the first time, a full body transformation on screen.
Yeah.
That film broke many records. It's the same guy who worked on The Howling as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that transformation scene is amazing and well before CGI. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I loved seeing all of the pictures and various text, film textbooks that had the
mhm.
actual like process of creating the prosthetics for that. And then he had David Naughton actually standing, there are these, he's standing in a hole in the floor, while they put the prosthetics on him. It was so cool. Just like, yeah. But yeah, I mean, and it explains a lot, and explains a lot about my dad. you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And the weirdest thing about it was that I love that movie. I mean, it's great. But my sisters and I finally we snuck and watched it because again, it was like contraband. We weren't permitted to watch that, and that movie not at all. And we
right.
couldn't even speak about it at the dinner table. And I was like, dang. When we finally watched it, it we found it. I mean, it's a dark comedy, is what it is. It's a really dark, funny movie, and we were laughing the whole way through. So it just and brought it up at the dinner table. Oh, we watched it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
My dad was like, no, it wasn't.
Right.
He's like, that poor man turning into a werewolf, the pain he suffered. I just went,
Yeah,
but yeah.
his buddy, after he was all ripped up and chopped meat, sitting next to him in the movie theater talking to him, there was definitely some dark comedy in there. Definitely.
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, and the fact that the guy, and my father had brought this up too, that the protagonist was such a normal guy, a likable, normal,
Yeah.
American with his buddy out walking the moors, at night, and they're joking. And even after death, there's, his best friend still joking around with him, even though he's like, you need to kill yourself, you have to curse, you have to kill yourself. So
Yeah.
so,
No, it's definitely a great film. I enjoyed it a lot. It's one of my favorites. I mean, I like The Howling as well, which did their very first wolf face transformation on
Yep.
screen.
Yep. I didn't see The Howling until much later,
Right.
and you could see like that how the trend developed just through watching those two movies, like the
Yep.
fascination with werewolves, coming
I
about.
love werewolf films. They're one of my favorites. One of my
They're
favorite monsters.
Yeah. Did you see the new? There's a movie I want to see so much, and I missed it when I was at the theater very recently. It's called The Cursed.
No, it's on my list. I need to see that. Yes.
Yeah, what's it called? You see, I hate that title because there was another werewolf movie called Cursed with Christina Ricci.
Yes, there was.
Kevin Williamson wrote it, and it had a terrible backstory with it, and it took forever. And I was like, and that movie was like, okay. But this one, the title for the new one was, I think it was originally supposed to be called something like Eight for Silver or something like that, which I thought would have been much more memorable than The Cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A definitely different title.
Yeah. I want to see it so much. I don't know about you, but I always make a list of like new horror movies that people are talking about, like that played at South by Southwest and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I have a huge list. I'm slowly checking them off. Speaking of cannibalism from before, I was going to ask you, have you seen the movie Fresh on Hulu?
I have it actually on my watch list. I heard someone talk about it. I was like, all right, gotta go and see this. And so I found it and I did. It's on my watch list. That is something that I will be watching.
Yes, I was gonna say you need to. It's cannibalism for sure, but it is I loved it because it feels kind of almost satirical in a way, socially satirical, because it's
Right.
about a young woman she's been on dating apps, and the men on the dating apps are so awful. And so it's about the kind of the trials and tribulations of modern dating, and then throw cannibalism in there, and then you've got the movie. But I have to say, this is probably going to be on my top list for the year. It's one of my favorite movies that I've seen recently. So I highly suggest anybody who likes cannibal movies and kind of into a little bit of a quirky romantic comedy, but then just goes completely crazy,
Yeah.
completely nuts. So I was like, yeah, I had a friend say, yeah, I knew this was a movie you'd like. I was like, duh. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I need more cannibal. See, I like to see more cannibal films set with families that are well off. We always see a cannibal film that is, backwoods,
Yeah.
Texas or Virginia, places like that. And okay, I understand that. It's a really scary factor. Some of them are inbred, all crazy looking. But I really would like to see a family that is, whether they're middle class or well off, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Your average, everyday, normal person, well, what you would deem to be normal is just sitting
Right.
there eating people. We
Yeah.
need films like that. A lot of our cannibal films are backwoods,
Backwoods
right?
or their tribes,
Exactly.
like the Green
Uh,
Inferno and Cannibal Holocaust, and all of those
yeah,
about the documentarians who are going to film, or in the case
yeah.
of Inferno, the protesters, and yeah.
Yep. Yep. And we need some more mainstream cannibalism. A lot of cannibal films are cliche. Yes, they are. Dead Walk. Yes, they are. So I'm definitely going to check out Fresh. You will see
Yeah.
a review on my YouTube channel about it. If it's definitely worthy, I will do a review on it. But yeah, we need Hannibal, but not what I'm looking for. Hannibal is
Different, yeah. Yeah.
but
Isn't that Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't like there's this giant debate about what's a horror movie and what's a thriller. And
yeah,
like Hannibal always, all of the Silence of the Lamb movies kind of falls more under thriller, even though I think it's horror film too.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's kind of like, I don't know.
He's the nonchalant of cannibalism,
Yeah,
right?
and he's not really like, it's not his main purpose is to eat
No,
people. It's not what he does. He
he
just did
likes it.
it for like but he likes to kill and he likes to manipulate people. So
Yes, he does. He likes to play with his food, but mainly he likes to play with them and then eat them. Hi, Harder. Hi, Jack. But yes, no, I mean, yeah, you got Sir Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, but he's like he's your top tier executive, let's just say, nonchalant type of cannibal that eats when he's in the mood. This is not something that he eats on a regular basis. It's something that's a delicacy to him. I would like to see something that it's an everyday thing. Serial Mom was a fun one, and there was there was another movie. Basically, the family. It's an older movie, guys. It's from I think the 80s or the 90s. Parents, no,
yes.
Parents. Is that's it?
With Randy Quaid. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
Basically, the family stores human meat in their freezer, and that's what they eat every day. That is
Yep.
the only film that I know that is family oriented, middle class, where he works at his company and his wife is home, and yeah, they murder humans and they keep them in the deep freeze, and that's what they eat.
Yeah.
And
The beautiful thing about Parents as well is that it's told from the perspective of their little boy,
yes,
like who is not aware of what's really happening. So
has no idea what's happening. And
Mhm.
yeah, they have the whole plastic sheet down in the living room, and it makes it look like they're being a little kinky, but they're not. Has anybody in the chat seen the movie Parents? It's an older film, definitely an older film. But that's where I would like to see more of those types of films where the family is involved and it's everyday thing.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and as you said, something it seems really like it seems like it would be backwoods, lower class kind of. There we tend to see that a little bit more than we do like upper class, or people who
Yeah,
are the highest of, or middle class, just like the blue,
yeah.
like the white collar worker, the parents for sure. I'm trying to think. I know I've seen something besides Parents where it was an upper class. I'd have to. I know. I can't
I
think of
have to
anything at
think.
the moment. I
Yeah,
know that.
because Parents came to mind. I love the movie Parents.
Yeah.
Uh, it came to mind back in the day because that's the only other film that I could think of that it was an everyday average family that you would
Well,
think.
there's one that, but they're not like everyday average. They're kind of religious. We Are What We Are. If you've seen that one.
No, I have not. I'm gonna have to write that down.
there's the original version, and I think it's I don't want to say where, I don't know if it's from Mexico or someplace else. And then there's the American, again, it's American remake, but it was
Right.
actually very well done. Jim Mickle who was the director for that one? I'm like drawing a blank. I think he did Stakeland. I think he did that movie.
Oh, okay. I know Stakeland.
I think so. And it has, yeah, I'm like, I'm getting old because I can't remember names. The girl who plays the lead in Inventing Anna, and the one who plays Ruth in Ozark is in We Are What We Are, the remake.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what got producers' attention was her portrayal in that movie. But it is about a family. They're not really middle class. They're more like, they're not really like hillbillies or anything like that. But I know they're blue collar, and they're kind of religious.
Yeah.
And they have this, something happens to the mother. I think the mother is found dead or something. And so the cops who are investigating her death, are making these horrible connections to their family. Like there's something wrong with the family and they're not sure what it is. But yeah, I mean, it is about cannibalism. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
And
check it out.
Yeah, and it's not I only recommend it if you have some patience with it.
Right.
It's a good movie, but it's not a by the seat of your pants kind of crazy. The pacing is very it's a slow burn movie, so you have to be very patient if you want to watch it. It is very good. We are what we are.
All right, I'm gonna have to put that into my list. And Serial Santa Clarita Diet is a great TV series. It's just about zombies, though, not cannibals.
Yeah.
And
that's like one of those, like, she is a zombie, right?
She's a zombie.
But she looks like a regular human being. Yep. She's not, she starts disintegrating only if she doesn't feed, right?
Yep.
I am so disappointed that they didn't renew for that.
Yep. And I know a lot of the actors, I read an article, a lot of the actors were wanting a part 3.
Yeah.
It sucks the way they ended it, because that's on a cliffhanger. Like they ended it the way they ended it. I did not like it because they weren't doing a season 3. I love Santa Clarita Diet. I thought it was a great take on zombies.
Yeah. It was original too. I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, where this weird thing, this meatball looking thing gets stuck in the throat and you cough it out, it grows effing legs. Like, what?
No, it's so weird. And the fact that it's like, causing people to become zombified without really being zombified.
Exactly.
They just have to eat humans. And so they have to eat flesh. So
yeah. and for me, it's a great zombie flick. It's a great zombie show. I like good zombies. I love good zombie movies and TV shows. And iZombie was another one that I really, really enjoyed. And it was specific to the zombie lore of Brains, where, some of the other films are more just eating people.
Yeah, just gore for gore's sake. Yeah, zombies are always they had such a great renaissance when The Walking Dead came out. And then I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired of zombies unless it's got it really has to be a unique take on or some kind of core story. Like I was talking to a friend the other day about Train to Busan, which one of the best recent zombie movies we've had, and the fact they're remaking that, of course.
Of course.
Of course. But yeah, it takes, of course, the whole debate with the fast or the slow zombies. It takes the fast zombies, obviously, which personally I find more terrifying because I'm out of shape.
Oh, yeah. I find a lot of the international zombie films, their zombies are fast. They're not slow. They're not Romero zombies. They are 28 Days Later type of zombies. They're fast. Not like the Korean zombie films. They're oh my God, are they creepy?
Yeah, and and the origin of a zombie. Do we call it a zombie if it's just an infected sick person? Like 28 Days Later, do we call that a zombie? So yeah. Like I said, I like that renaissance and bringing up those much more sophisticated questions than simply, they just came up from the grave, started eating people.
Well, and Romero, right? Godfather of zombies. When Night of the Living Dead came out, they weren't called zombies at all. There's not one part in that movie that they're called zombies, and they eat everything, not just brains. It wasn't until a little bit later do we start seeing just the brains of eating it, right?
Right.
But yeah,
That's true. I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten that original film that they just were mindless
they
beings
were
that
mindless walking around beings. Most of them are risen out of the grave,
uh-huh.
and they were just out to eat.
That's
There was no brains. They weren't called zombies. They were called ghouls for the most part. And yeah, they ate everything. It didn't matter. It was
yeah.
stomachs, insides, brains, all sorts of stuff. And Black Summer is a really good take on a zombie TV show.
That was
Yes.
a good one. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I loved how I love that's one where the pacing is really fast. And for
Yes.
series, the fact that it's like very like it's structured so it picks up right when the first thing the previous episode lets out.
Yeah.
And like I like the new season that well actually no both seasons did. They both focused on different characters in the same time frame. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah,
But
Black Summer's a good one.
yeah.
Oh, Celtic Wolf wants to know, Kenzie, how do you feel about horror games? Do you play any kind of video games?
Oh, you're gonna hate me. I don't play horror games, and the reason why is not because I don't like them, because I love watching like Twitch and stuff like that. But I don't play them because it detracts from what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm already addicted to like watching, you know, TikTok and stuff like that, which is useless, really. Um, I think if I really started playing games like seriously, because I used to a long time ago. I used to like back in the this is dating me like back in the Doom era. I mean, like first
Doom,
person era
yes.
creation. Jesus, so old. And then later ones like Silent Hill and whatnot. I liked
Mhm.
playing those. But yeah, since I've been writing seriously over the past couple of years, I've shut off like video games. I will not because I need to write. I don't want another distraction that will take up my time. But
Yep.
again, I like I know that there are some really like recently they've come out with some really solid horror games. And I have a friend who's trying to encourage me to get on one of those multiplayer ones and play with her. And I don't know. I haven't really got into it though. But yeah, and I think that like the era of the early like first person games like Doom and I was going to say the mystery games like this you want to really date me Myst if anybody remembers that one, the puzzle game that was like the beautiful visuals for that. Of course now they look like crap,
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. There was a
but yeah.
mystery game that I played called Chiller, and that was way back in the day. And it's definitely, you look at it now and you're like, oh.
Yeah, yeah, I had to talk about that. But yeah, and so I know that the effects are so much better now. And I'm gonna be honest too, I don't want to play a game. Not only will it suck my away my time, but one of the things that like I'm one of those like sadomasochistic thrill seekers where I don't like jump scares because I will jump. I really will. And a lot of those video games now have these great jump scares,
Oh,
and
they do.
right in your face. And I will have a I am okay. I am middle aged. I will have a heart attack. So no jump scares. I what was
Yep.
it? Yeah, it was back when like one of the many Silent Hill continuations, and I was watching a friend play it, and I had to walk out of the room. I was like, I can't take it anymore. Just stop.
Yep, trust me, I'm 44 and I play a lot of horror games, and there have been times where I thought my heart was gonna fucking jump out of my throat. Like I almost died.
Or
Uh,
no, and that's why I don't also I have students who ask me because I live in Florida, I live in Central Florida. So I live in a city that's like right between Tampa and Orlando. And we're kind of people joke that we're the theme park capital of the world, right? In near Orlando and Tampa. So but yeah, Halloween horror nights. I have students always asking me, why don't you go to Halloween horror nights? It's so much fun. And I said, it's not that I don't want to go. It's just that I don't want to go because
I
because
don't
there's
want
going to
to
be people
die.
jumping in front of me and making me scream, and I could not. It's sensory overload, man.
It is. And Monkey is definitely right. I have my animals. They like to come into my office and my game room where I play video games and I do my thing. And there was this one game, I don't even remember what the heck I was doing, but I screamed really loud. And I do it on camera and I'm live, right? It's embarrassing to some extent, but not I find it fun at the same time. But I cleared all my animals out of the room. They were just like, oh, fuck no. And out they go.
That's right. And they're traumatized too. And sometimes if they're really intuitive, they will also be scared of whatever it is you're watching.
Yes.
And this really, really stereotypes me and puts me in a stereotype. I have a cat, I have just one cat. I'm not a cat lady or anything like that. But my cat, he doesn't he jumps from around other people. But when there's a horror film on, I don't know if he's really watching it, but it's the creepiest thing. Whenever there's a kill scene, he just stares at the screen like he's studying it.
Yeah. Who does that?
What are you planning? What's going on?
Yep.
And he won't, he doesn't move, but he'll sense me move and he'll look right at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's fascinating. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. Definitely. And when I play scary games, Deadwalk is right. I call all of my friends the Horde, and that's the community name, and they like to scare me even more. I have jump scare sounds in there where I'm just hanging out. My spawns come in, they scare the ever-living shit out of me. Yeah, it's always a good time. One of these days, it's going to be a heart attack on stream.
Well, that's why I could not even imagine, like, if I were a gamer on Twitch or something and playing horror games. I would be the person who died in the horror film or the horror game. I would. That's it. I quit. I'm dead. The zombie, the pyramid head, whatever, killed me.
Yeah.
Just like I'm dead. So.
Yeah.
No game.
And it's funny. My cat Fusa. She is we call her a weirdo. Because she's weird. She's a weird cat. And she watches the horror movies with me. She's usually the one that comes into my game room and hangs out with me, has to have her 15 minutes. But she is our weirdo cat. She'll sit there and she'll watch horror movies, but she'll also wig out of nowhere. We're all hanging out in the living room, we're watching something, and all of a sudden she'll start doing this whip it with her head, like this weird body movement. I gotta capture it on film, on camera. But it's this weird body movement that she starts doing, and then she starts flying around the house, and you're like, what the frig are you doing?
She senses the ghosts in the house.
She's something.
That's the creepiest thing about animals in general, the fact that they're so intuitive and like, that there are boogeymen in your house.
Oh, there is. I know I have ghosts in my house. My other cat, Socket, you don't really see her at all. I have a security camera inside my house, and we were watching one of the recorded videos, and you can see this thing come in front of the camera, but this orb type of thing come into the camera, and then you can see my cat Socks, and you can see her eyes because they're in the nighttime, so the light is like making her eyes shine, and you can see her head moving. She's watching whatever is in my I have that video up on YouTube. You can see her move her head and like watch what the hell is going on. But yeah, it's kind of creepy. And then Fusa, what she does at night or early morning, you know how you feel somebody or something is watching you and you wake up or you look and you're like, what the fuck? Well, my cat Fusa is like a gargoyle. Yeah. We have a dresser in front of our bed. So our bed is here, my head is here, our dresser is over here. I wake up and I open up my eyes and I can see her. She just sits there perched like a gargoyle watching.
Nope.
Yeah.
You need to sage the house. You need to burn some sage. You need you need something.
There's about six
from Poltergeist. You need that.
Well, I swear that there's something in my computer. My computer needs an exorcism. I have gremlins. I swear there's gremlins in there somewhere. But I do have a few spirits in the house. Like, we can definitely see them every now and again. Joy Toy will actually see it on my webcam. I'll be sitting here and she'll be like, look, there's something by your head. And I'm like, I don't see it. But she sees it.
I live in my grandparents' old house, and I can tell you, yeah, 2 people died in this house. So for sure, I was there when they, I was there. And I, I have never seen any ghosts or anything. People
Right.
ask, do you believe in ghosts? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen any, but I believe that other people have. And every time, okay, so the room where I'm in right now, it was my grandfather's room. And now it's a guest room. And both my ex-roommate and my ex-boyfriend, and that's not why this isn't why they're exes, by the way. They both had similar experiences. They don't talk to each other, they're not friends, they don't know each other at all. And they both had the exact same experience in this room, where there's a window over here and there are curtains there. And one of the curtains lifted while they were, playing on the computer here. It just lifted, and they looked down and it went back down. And the fact that there's no vent there, the window's not open, there's nothing that would cause that to happen, nothing scientific that could possibly cause that to happen. And the fact that 2 very different people said the same thing freaks me out. So I'm hoping it's like my grandfather.
It could be, definitely.
Knowing my grandmother, she was like the practical joker, so it might have been her, if anything, So, but man, no.
If she's a practical joker, definitely, right? She was like, I'm gonna make these fools scream, open up things.
Yeah, well, no, just yeah, but yeah, I haven't seen anything. That's the. I guess it's because I don't know. It's sort of like the horror writer's curse. It's like I can't speak for all horror writers, but I think I can speak for probably a handful of them. I write about it because I want it to happen to me. The ghost, come on, I want to see this. Give me material, come on.
Right? And Zach is saying that he also lives in his grandparents' old house. 3 generations of family have passed away where he is living. That's
you see any
crazy.
ghosts?
Yeah. Do you see anything, Zach? Yeah, right, Monkey. And your cat doesn't. Timon, great grandmother, great grandmother, grandmother, and uncle. Oh wow, Zach.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, as long as everybody gets along, I think you're probably gonna be okay, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As long as there are not any devils in the family, just yeah.
Right. Thanks for the follow over here, Grim Adam. Thank you very much. For those of you that want to find where you can stalk Kenzie at, exclamation point guest in the chat will give you all of her links where you can find her books, her Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everything. We are getting to be upon, it's almost 11 o'clock my time. Is there anything that you want to tell us about before we start to end?
Oh,
Any projects?
Anything? Well, I'm doing 4 projects right now.
Ooh.
But one of them is a story. I've got 2 anthology projects and then 2 books. I told you about the book I'm writing with somebody else.
Right.
I'm writing a sequel to Red Station right now. I'm actually halfway done with it. It's called Northway, and it's about Clyde, the character.
Yeah.
For those people who really like, in fact, kind of, it is about Red Station is about a stagecoach that stops for the night at a place that's run by a bunch of serial killers, a family. And it's loosely based on the Bloody Benders of Kansas. So the villains are actually based on these real people who existed. But yeah, I'm writing a sequel to that because I had a lot of demand from people who loved the book and wanted more about her character. Because I kind of created this fun. It was a conventional slasher, but set in a Western and set in a station home. And so I wanted a final girl. So she's this, but she's more intense than that. So I'm doing that right now. And there are 2 short stories that I've started for 2 anthologies that'll come out later this year that I've agreed to. So it'll definitely up in my Amazon author page. And if my website, which hasn't been updated in a long time, is kenziejennings.com. But you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. And Instagram and TikTok.
Yep. And I have all of your links right there. And yep, I have your website. I had to make the Amazon URL shorter because my bot, that it would put it in 2 messages and it would break the link. But that tiny URL, Kenzie, there, that link will open up the Amazon, and you guys can go take a look at the books there. Zach, so you did see some stuff when you were younger in your house, and sometimes the doorbell rings and nobody is there. Ooh.
No, Sage.
Sage. Sage it all up.
Sage that. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much for being on Coffee Chat of Horrors, Kenzie. It was a great pleasure, and I'm excited for the book to read. And now I have another one on my list called Reception. So I'm going to be looking for that one today after stream. Awesome. But yes, thank you so very much for being on the show with us and hanging out on your Sunday.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. It's always a good time. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for asking your questions. But before we go, I do need to ask you one of our favorite questions here. If you can choose any monster to be, a zombie, Frankenstein's monster, vampire, werewolf, anything in the world, what would it be?
Ooh, I would choose a ghost.
Ooh, to haunt the shit out of people.
So I can haunt everybody who'd wronged me.
That would be great. Definitely, because then you could just go around to different places. You wouldn't be stuck. You can just get anybody who pissed you off in the past.
Right. And that would be so glorious. You want to talk about practical jokes too.
Right? Teasing everybody. I know, Joy Toy, it went really fast. We're almost on like an hour and a half. This ended too soon. It was definitely awesome meeting Kenzie. I had a great time. And it sucks when you're having a good time. Time just flies right by. Next thing you know, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Your whole day is gone because you're sitting here chit-chatting horror and books. But yes, thank you. And the video will be up after the live stream, and all of Kenzie's links will be there as well. So in case you've missed this live stream, you'll be able to check it all out down below. But yes, thank you so much for being here. And this weekend coming, we're supposed to be speaking with Tristan Risk. She is an entertainer and actress. We're supposed to be talking with her on Saturday, so there might be an extra special Coffee Chat of Horrors. I'll keep you guys updated. And if there's anybody else that you'd like to shout out or have their links in the description, Kenzie, please let me know. And I will add their links to the description on YouTube so people can check them out.
All right, thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you for having me again. It was great.
Of course, it's always a good time. Thank you very much for being here. I will talk to you later, Kenzie.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, now let's hope my XSplit is transitioning. Perfect. I can't move my XSplit. My XSplit is kind of like frozen. Thank you guys so very much for being here with me and hanging out. I had an amazing time speaking with Kenzie. She is so much fun. I definitely have the book Reception that she was discussing about a cannibal wedding that I will be getting. Thank you guys so very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And a big thank you to Kenzie for taking the time out of her weekend to come and hang out with us to chat about horror. Fusa is here. Yeah, I'm hoping that I don't know how I'm going to be able to end XSplit. I'm going to have to probably like force close it out. We do need like 4 more hours of Kenzie. I completely agree. She's amazing. Again, guys, if you want to follow her or get any of her books, these are independent authors and artists. Your support means the world to them. So down below in the description, you'll be able to find all of her links where you can buy her books. She does have some audio books as well. That's one of the books that I did buy, has an audio. So definitely go check it out. Show her some love. Hopefully this Saturday, we'll be doing an extra special Coffee Chat of Horrors where we'll be speaking with Tristan Risk. It's been such a hell of a time getting Tristan on the show, but it's going to be very well worth it. I will see you guys. I'm going to have to task manage it. Yep. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow morning over on Twitch at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Link is down below if you want to watch us live over there. Thank you guys for everything. I love your guts. Have amazing rest of your weekend. And I will see you guys Monday morning. Mwah. Bye, Fusa. Say bye. Bye, guys.